Welcome back to the Tool Crib. Today we are going to be looking at a knife. This one is from SOG. This is called the SOG Kilowatt. And I really like that name, by the way. This is an electrician-based knife, electrician-themed knife. And so it offers, it's a great knife, first of all, but it offers a lot of wire and cable stripping capability that an electrician would need. Now, this was actually suggested to me by one of my viewers, and I'm really glad that he suggested it because I've been looking for something that I can carry with me. You know, at work, I usually don't carry a separate knife. Now, away from work, I carry a Chris Reeve in Cosi. But during work, I usually don't carry a separate blade. I found that my Surge, my Leatherman Surge really fits the bill for me for the most part when it comes to my knife blades at work. However, there's been a couple of different times where I wished I had a little bit better blade on me, or just those times when I would rather have just a regular knife and not have to pull out a full multi-tool in order to use a knife. Now, with the type of work that I do a lot of repair work, and so I have to go into places, and a lot of times I have to rewire motors, electric motors. And so I've been looking for an electrician-based tool that would give me wire stripping capability. And I've been looking at different multi-tools, but the only one that really works well that I found is the Leatherman Squirt ES4. The problem with the Squirt ES4 is that it's limited in its capabilities because, in fact, I have it here on the table. So it only goes to 12 gauge solid wire. Well, working with 480 motors, a lot of them are wired in with 10 gauge stranded. And so I need the capability to go a little bit more than what the Squirt ES4 offers. And I think that this new SOG Kilowatt, well, actually it's not new, it's actually been around for quite a little while, but it's new to me. The SOG Kilowatt, I think, is going to really fit the bill for me. I'm going to really try this out. I just think it's going to work well with what I do. So if you're an electrician, or if you do the type of work I do, maybe you're in maintenance and you need to do some electrical work from time to time, I think this knife is something that you should consider. Well, let's go through the specs, and then we're going to talk about all the features and that and the little nuanced things that this knife has to offer. Let's get started. So the weight on this knife is really quite good at 3.73 ounces, or about 106 grams. And I think what contributes the most to it is that the handles themselves are glass nylon reinforced handles, so they're really lightweight. Now, the overall length in close position is 4 3/8 of an inch long, or about 111 millimeters. Its width is 1.25 inches wide, or about 32 millimeters, and the thickness of the knife is about 5/8 of an inch, or 16 millimeters. Now, in the open position, it is a full 7 5/8 of an inch long, or about 194 millimeters. So quite good, actually. I really like the overall weight and dimension size of this particular knife. Well, let's get into the features and functions of the SOG Kilowatt. The first thing I want to touch on is all the electrical theme stuff in this knife. So first of all, the handles are that glass nylon reinforced, and they have imprinted in here an electrical schematic, which I find really kind of cool that they've incorporated that in there. They have laser etched on the blade itself an electrical receptacle, as well as the SOG Kilowatt logo. Now, a couple of other things that they do: the thumb stud is actually styled after an electrical insulator, which I find pretty cool. And then the clip on the back is styled after a high voltage tower. Now that's also kind of interesting. Not necessary, but kind of cool. I think it's kind of cool anyway. And then on the back of on the other side of the handle, we have a little electrical bolt in there, which is all pretty unique. Now, this is actually manufactured in Taiwan. It's stamped right there, or actually etched into the blade there. Now, the blade itself is a full 3-inch long blade. It is a clip point blade, and the steel used in here is AUS 8 is what SOG uses in this knife, and I found it to be quite sharp. It really is a pretty good knife. Very, very sharp. SOG usually does pretty good on their knives. I just wish that their multi-tools they put as much attention into their multi-tools as they do, some of their really good knives. SOG at times can be really good, and at times it can be really bad. So I wish they would just increase their level of what am I trying to say? I just wish their multi-tools reflected more of their knives, I guess is what I mean to say. Now, this is only a right-handed knife. This is not a left-handed knife. Because of the way that the housing is here for the pocket clip, you cannot reverse it. One of my only complaints, now for me it doesn't really matter because I'm right-handed, but for those that are left-handed, I wish they had a left-handed version of this knife, because that's one of my only complaints. It really is. Now, the placement of everything, I love how it just fits my hand so well. I love how they've, the indentions here for your fingers, they just rest so well for me, for my sized hand. Also, like on the back of above the thumb stud, they have that little raised portion, and then on the back of the spine, they have the little finger choils here. I find that to be an incredibly comfortable positioning for everything. Feels really solid in my hand, that I could really get a lot of work done with that blade. Now, let's close this back up real quick. So for its wire stripping capability, it has from 10 to 22 gauge on the back here, which is a really good range. It's the kind of range that you're going to get in most just regular, normal, everyday wire strippers. But then they also have some cable stripping functionality. So for those larger wires, they have 3 different size holes here, which actually utilize the main blade to do the stripping on the cable. And then on the back, they have or on the wire. Then on the back, they have cable strippers. This is a spring-loaded cable stripper. So if you have, say, a group like a 3 or 4 wire, 16, 18, 22 gauge, whatever cable, and 2 different positions for those as well, for smaller cable and for larger cable for cutting the sheathing off those cables. I really like that. I really like that a lot. Let's use it a little bit and show you how well this thing works. All right, I've got a couple of wire selections here. The first one we're going to try is on a 14 gauge stranded. So we're going to want to seat that probably in the 12 gauge, because I'm pretty sure that these numbers are going to be representative of your solid wire. So we'll set it in the 12 gauge hole and give it a couple spins around. And then, oh yeah, that worked really, really well. Let's see, let's get a little close up of that so you guys can see how well that worked. Didn't score the copper whatsoever. That really did a great job. All right, the next one we're going to try is on a 10 gauge. And the 10 gauge, this stranded wire is obviously too big for the solid wire hole. So we're going to have to put that in the cable stripper up here. So let's see which hole fits. It won't fit quite in the smallest one, so we'll have to go to the second one up. We'll seat that in there, give it a little pressure. Rotate it around just a touch. Oh my goodness, that worked really, really, really well. We can get a little close up there. You can see that it did not score the copper at all. That just made an impressively clean cut. And then the last one we're going to try, I don't happen to have any cable, so we're just going to use this same 10 gauge on the cable stripper. So we'll seat it into the larger hole, give it a little pressure, once or twice around, and then I think I don't really want to pull against that with that little blade. That's a little razor that's in there, and I think it looks to be also that little blade is replaceable as well. So you can actually, has a couple of screw holes there where you can actually take that out and replace that. So let me pull out my surge real quick to pull the sheathing off of here, and we'll take a look and see how well that cut did. Well, if I can get gripped onto it here. Well, I actually went way too deep on that. You know what? I want to try that one more time, because that was really me. Well, let me give that a shot again. We'll go with a little bit lighter pressure this time. Squirt around, and we'll get that pulled out of there, and we'll try it out again. Yeah, that did much better. I still scored the copper just a little bit, but this is probably not what you'd be using this for anyway. This is the back here is going to be for for insulated 3-wire, 4-wire cable, whatever you have. So you'll have double insulation. You'll have insulation around the main wires and then the cable sheathing. So that's you can't cut quite as, or I find that I can't be quite as precise with this, going around and cutting the sheathing off. But for the rest of the functionality, it did fantastically well. I love how clean those cuts are, and I think this is going to work quite well. It did an awesome job. Let's let's talk a little bit more about why I like this and why I'm going to use it. There's a lot of things I like about this knife. First of all, the knife blade, the knife shape and everything, I really like that. It really fits well in my hand. I really like how everything is just really well balanced for me. The liner lock is really positive on it as well. It really locks in there quite nicely. I love how they raise up for the thumb stud here to give you a good resting point for your thumb. You can really pierce into something, or just using the knife in general. I just love how that is designed. Now, like I mentioned before, normally I've carried the ES4, but the ES4 is really limited. It only goes from 12 gauge to 20 gauge, where with this knife I can go from 10 gauge to 22 gauge plus cable stripper plus or your larger wire plus your cable stripper on the back, that little spring loaded. And I love the fact that that little blade there is replaceable. All very good functionality in this knife. Really lightweight, really fits well on my hand. There's only one other complaint that I have about this, and this is a little nitpicky, but it needs to be mentioned. I find that when I'm trying to slip this over my pocket, over the hem of the pocket, that if I kind of have to twist it when I'm pushing it down, because if I don't, the hem of my pocket will actually catch on the handle here. It's a little annoying, but once you get accustomed to it, I just give it a little twist, it slips right in, because otherwise the pocket will catch right there. That may be a little bit nitpicky. I think this is an excellent knife, and at $40, I don't think you can go wrong with this EDC, especially if you are an electrician or if you are in maintenance and you do a lot of repair and you have the need to work on electrical stuff, do electrical repair work. I'm going to use this for a while, try it out, see how well I like it. I think it's going to work really fantastically well for what I do. Well, my name is Ben, and you've been watching the Texas Tool Crib, my review of the SOG Kilowatt. If you've enjoyed it, please hit the thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one.